Good evening. You're watching The Urban Debate with me, Avni Raja. Now, the COVID vaccine is perhaps something that's on all our minds right now. All of us eagerly awaiting when the vaccine drive is actually going to kick off. Preparations for the inoculation drive are right now in full swing. In fact, just today, the second mega nationwide mock drill that was held in over 700 districts happened. All efforts are being made to ensure that the entire vaccination drive goes off smoothly. And if there are any loopholes, they should be plugged before the actual vaccination process begins. But the final date of when the drive is going to kick off, that is yet to be announced by the centre. Although, if you remember, a few days ago, the Health Ministry did say that they would be ready to roll out the vaccine by the 13th of January. But there are a lot of questions at this point on all our minds about the entire process of vaccination, when and how the vaccine is actually going to reach us. So what we're going to do today is to try and answer all of those questions that you may have. In fact, I have a fantastic panel of experts to answer all of those questions related to vaccines. So pick up your phones, call us on the number that's flashing on your screens. But first, let me introduce our guests today. Dr. Raman Gangakhetkar, former head epidemiology and communicable diseases, ICMR, is with us. Dr. Rajesh Parekh, director medical research, Jaslok Hospital, and author the vaccine book for COVID-19. Dr. Subramaniam Swaminathan, Director Infectious Diseases, Gleneagle Global, and Dr. Rajiv Seth, Senior Pediatrician and expert on vaccine expert, as well as Medical Director, Child Health and Development Center. Thank you all of you for joining us. And of course, we've got a lot of questions lined up yet again today. But before we get to all of that, let's actually listen in to what the Union Health Minister said just a short while back about the dry run that was conducted and also the vaccination drive itself.
The preparations are in order. The manpower has been trained, and Tamil Nadu has in the last year fought against COVID with utmost responsibility, with the leadership of the government. Because of the fortune of India, that we have been able to produce 2 vaccines, and those 2 vaccines have been given emergency use authorization by the drug controller. And anytime in the near future, after we have ensured that there are adequate preparations in all the districts of the country and all the required manpower up to the level of vaccinators and our grassroots workers, they are all adequately trained, all the guidelines have been followed, and the cold chain and the vaccine delivery systems are in order. We will commence vaccination at any moment. Preparation for that, apart from training in terms of strengthening and augmenting our cold chain facilities, starting from where the vaccine will be manufactured and to its delivery to the last point. All that has been assessed in the last 5 months, as I had told in the morning also.
All right, that is what the Union Health Minister had to say just a short while back. But let me take off from there. Dr. Gangakhetkar, if I can come to you first, I just want to, take up what the Union Health Minister said. Are you surprised at this point that we still don't have a final date for the rollout? We are just 4 days away from the 13th, which is when the government had said that they would be ready to roll out the vaccine, but we don't have a date as yet.
I'm not at all worried about the date as such. The reason is very simple. You in the first priority groups, you have healthcare workers and frontline workers who essentially are already pre-populated. They know where to go. No, if they have to ask people to come and take their vaccines as such. And I don't think it requires so much of time to inform healthcare workers as well as frontline workers. So perhaps they are testing, since the last dry run has been done today. Now they will know as to what challenges will be there, and accordingly they will announce it maybe in tomorrow or day after.
Okay. And just to take that point forward, Dr. Ganga Khedkar, we still haven't even, from the Serum Institute as well, they've said that they haven't received an official order from the government as yet. And they're waiting for something official, something written. They've only got verbal, verbal communication at this point.
To be honest, I wouldn't be worried about that either.
Okay.
No, once the intent is there, it is expressed on even in public media also. There is no reason for worrying on that account, because that can be issued even by fax, even by whatever procedures that they have to do. The communication can happen as quickly. And at the same time, I also read a news item which said that from Pune today there are loads of these vaccines which are going to be taken over to different depots. So I think we shouldn't now worry about those aspects. Let the government worry on how the operationalization, how the scaling up will be done, rather than we worrying at this juncture.
All right, Dr. Parikh, if I can come to you here, we saw the second mega dry run today across the entire country. Obviously, this is all, to try and check whether there are any loopholes and whatever needs to be plugged at this point in time. Do you think we are sufficiently prepared now?
Thank you, Avni, for inviting me on your program. Always a pleasure to be with you. I would assume that we are adequately prepared to the extent that one can be adequately prepared. One can never be fully prepared for a campaign of this magnitude, despite the extensive experience that our country has in eradicating smallpox as well as polio more recently. The demands for a campaign which is as monumental as this, the biggest vaccination drive in the history of mankind, we can be only that much prepared. There will be little things now and then which will come up. But I think, the government's doing a tremendous job by having these dry runs and getting fully ready to roll out as and when they are. And it's okay if, we are delayed by a day or two. What's more important is to have all systems in place so that it goes as smoothly as possible.
All right, Dr. Subramanian Swaminathan, coming to you here. In terms of course, we've done a lot at this point in time, but like Dr. Parikh just mentioned, that there will always be some glitches, some hiccups as and when the process rolls out. Where do you think that perhaps there could be a little more focus on, or a little more, extra precaution is required while we get into this entire rollout process? All right, Dr. Swaminathan, I think we're just going to try and reconnect with you. We seem to have having a problem with that audio line. Dr. Seth, if I can come to you, same question there. What do you think is something that requires maybe a little more precaution as we get into rolling out the vaccine?
Yes, precautions are needed now. They will be needed at the time when we start vaccinating. And let me tell you, there's a lot of work which is going on, which probably is not in the media or in the public domain, because, the government has its own systems of healthcare. The central state governments and the state governments are working with the districts and district immunization officers. I have first-hand knowledge from Mewat, which is one of the poor aspirational district, the poorest of the aspirational district in India. And I know for last few months, all the intensive training of the frontline health workers who are going to give the vaccinations is going on. They have programs and their posters, the community have to be prepared. You see, the one of the things is the vaccine acceptance, which is very crucial. Having worked in children and universal immunization program for the children, and worked in aspirational districts where there are huge amount of social determinants of health will influence how a vaccine is finally administered. So in the village level, you need to deal with the sarpanch, the panchayats, the village elders, the local doctors out there, the teachers and educated people out there, and then the mother-in-law and the fathers and patriarchy society, and they all need to come on page. And obviously the programs is this time is very special because the government has a COVID app. Once that app is logged on, and then you have to register yourself, and then you get the SMS that you are registered. They will tell you where you have to go for your vaccinations, and there are immunization officers who, after you are administered, will also log in that you got it. And that system will also then tell you when you have to come for your booster. Remember, the immunization is not complete with one dose. When you get both the doses, then there's a great chance, more than 95% of that you will not get COVID. And then is a follow-up is going to take place. The vaccination drive is just one part, but once the vaccine is actually given, I'm sure there is going to be intense research, because the effectiveness of the vaccine, the clinical challenges that you face, like you yourself mentioned, will be out in the open. And one of the, as person who does vaccinations, one of the serious most, side effect that we see is an acute anaphylactic reaction, where a person may hyper allergic patient who gets a vaccine would certainly get into a kind of a shock kind of situation. But we need to be prepared. And that's where is the rare side effects. Most of the common side effects you see are very easily treatable, like your low-grade fever, pain, swelling, things like that. So one doesn't need to be so worried about. And the other thing is that here the vaccine is being rolled out to firstly the health providers themselves. So I'm a medical doctor. I probably should be qualified to get the first set of vaccines, along with all the frontline health workers, staffs, and other things in our department, and also the police and all the other, functionaries of the government who are working on the front line to break this COVID pandemic. So once the experience that we get, so isn't that great? The doctors themselves are going to get the shots, and they're going to be, and then I'm sure our political leaderships and officials, when they are shown on the TV that they are getting it, I think themselves, I think their positive narrative around the vaccine is very important.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we've started getting calls coming in. Manohar joining us from Chennai. Manohar, thank you for joining us. Go ahead. What's your question?
Hello, good evening, Dr. Sir. Thank you for attending my call. Sir, my doubt is, I think will I have any side effects if I take that vaccine? Because I'm normally used to get this type of rashes or some allergy conditions to anything little high on either you take it as medicine or something. What will happen to me like person? Because I'm a aged person, say about 60 years. Thank you for this.
All right.
So I can answer that. It's you're the people who are going to administer these vaccines. They will first have a one-to-one talk with you and find out your background, your medical history. And once they find that you are eligible with the eligibility criteria that we have, and if you are a health worker, you will be the first one to be getting that. If you are a senior citizen or you are a person with comorbidities, then you will qualify. And they will talk about the allergies, and for that allergic reaction, the 30 minutes wait time after vaccination is meant for that, to screen, to make sure that you don't have immediate side effects of any kind of allergic reaction to the vaccine. You see, despite the fact that this vaccine has been tested in volunteers and people, that it is safe, it is effective, but any allergic reaction can take place at any point of time, and therefore all precautions will be taken off, and a monitoring will be done after you get a vaccine. So I think you should not be concerned about that.
All right, Dr. Seth, thank you for taking that question. I want to go across to Dr. Gangakhetkar once more here. Dr. Gangakhetkar, a lot of questions are coming in with people asking when they will be getting the vaccine, how will they know they're eligible. So we do know it's pretty clear the first phase, how it is going to pan out, who are the people, the frontline workers are going to be among those people, perhaps with senior citizens with comorbidities will be among the first to get it. But once that stage is over, what is the process going to be when it then gets into the rest of the population? How will that work, if you can help us understand?
Yeah, this is one thing which we will keep on deciding how you would go ahead as the time passes by. Because you need to remember the pandemic is also a dynamic pandemic. So essentially, what would it mean? You will find that the outbreak will also continue, whether in smaller outbreaks in different parts or whatever. Now, what would essentially happen is, if I see it my way rather than or think of speculating on what could happen, one of the things that might happen is currently you have only two vaccines, but there will be more vaccine manufacturers who will come to you to seek approval from DCGI. And once that starts happening, if the dosages are adequate, then we have to start deciding how it would like to offer these dosages to people. And those issues can only be settled once, the first phase of prioritized workers getting vaccine initiates. So you should not worry. In any case, whether you receive vaccine now, whether you receive vaccine later, we need to continue the COVID appropriate behavior, no, even post vaccination, and try to protect ourselves from this infection.
Yes, that's a very important point you mentioned there, Dr. Ganga Khetkar, and I will, just focus on that in just a bit. But before that, let's go across to Priya Nath, who's joining us from Mumbai. Priya, thank you for calling in. Go ahead. What's your question?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for connecting me. I just wanted to know, see, I am in mid-40s, so I will not be eligible for the early vaccination drive. I just wanted to know, when will it be available in the private market? Is it safe to take it in the private market? Doctors, can you advise? And I want to know the side effects also.
Okay. All right. Let me take that question to Dr. Swaminathan here. Dr. Swaminathan, of course, Dr. Ganga Khetkar just explained as to how the process will be, but specific to her question, what would be your response?
I would not be comfortable thinking about taking it from the private sector, possibly because the systems have to be put in place. Remember, you want to make sure that appropriate cold chain facilities are properly maintained.
Yes.
It may not require minus 70 degrees, but it still needs fridge temperature and making sure that the fridge is continuously on, not switched off at night and things like that. Otherwise, you'll be paying a very huge amount of money for just a little bit of warm water. So I would advise patients, because there's going to be a lot of stuff which will be passed around on social media saying, I have a dose of the vaccine, would you like it, kind of thing. So please be wary of that. Remember, our risk right now is fairly low, given that our numbers are very low. It's not to say that we don't have a problem. We still should remain vigilant and careful. So let's not be in a hurry to try and get the vaccine. Let's all wait our turns. Now, as far as the side effects are concerned, well, the early data seems to suggest that these are very safe vaccines. The good news is both the vaccines which have been approved in India are based on technology we already know. This is not new technology. It's not something which we have never used before. It's been used in other viruses, and we know what happens. So it is quite safe. So it's definitely something that should not keep people up at night. Rare things can happen with any intervention. So that should not be a yardstick to decide whether to do it or not. Overall, the risk-benefit ratio is in favor of taking the vaccination. So to me, it's a no-brainer. Definitely, vaccination is a great thing to do and absolutely necessary.
Yes, absolutely. I want to go across to Dr. Parekh here, to talk about specifically the point that Dr. Ganga Khetkar was mentioning with regard to the precautions that need to be continued to, one need to keep taking the precautions, even if you've taken the vaccine or if you're between doses, especially when one should continue to take precautions. If you can, just help us understand why that is necessary.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, no vaccine is 100% efficacious. Second, what has been seen in the studies so far is that the actual efficacy of a particular vaccine in an individual begins to take off only about 10 to 12 days after the second dose. And typically, there is an interval of 3 to 4 weeks, depending on which vaccine one is using, between the first and the booster doses. So after the first dose, people should not get a false sense of security that, oh, I've been vaccinated and I can let go of my precautions. And in that sense, your question is indeed very important. They have to continue as rigorously with all the usual precautions until they get the second dose. And then 10 to 12 days beyond the second dose, the immunity will kick in. Again, there is no way to determine at a particular level, at the herd level, we can say that it has kicked in this percentage of people, and that's a fairly high and robust number of people. At the individual level, one has to continue with these precautions and, to the greater part of this year, because we do not know as yet with any degree of certainty as to how long this immunity will be confirmed. Preliminary data seems to suggest 6 to 9 months. Hopefully, it will be longer. But again, one must remember that when we're discussing data, we are talking about averages. This is usually a curve which is distributed with people at both extremes. It's always safer to assume that one must be in the category that stays particularly safe. And just to quickly touch upon the questions that came both from Chennai, I think Manohar, and from Mumbai, Priyanka, everything under the sun, including the sun, has a side effect. So side effects are there,
Yes.
but as was appropriately pointed out by both my co-panelists, the risk-benefit ratio is clearly in favor of the vaccine.
Yes, absolutely. All right, we've got Ravi Mehta joining us from Mumbai. Ravi, thank you for calling in. Go ahead. What's your question?
Question is, when should senior citizens register on the app? Because I guess it'll take some time for the priority 1 and 2, which is the frontline workers and the health workers, to get vaccinated. So when would be, how long would one have to wait? How long would senior citizens have to wait to register? Should we register right in the beginning or wait till the first healthcare workers, etc., get over?
All right, Dr. Swaminathan, if you would like to take that question.
I think the government is still looking at that. There will be registration processes which are ongoing. The problem is going to be last mile connectivity, because data collection in villages and hard to reach areas is going to be a little more difficult. But living in urban metros and centers of where we have a lot more healthcare availability, delivery should be easier. There will be, I suspect, an online portal where you can register. The COVID portal, of course, you already know. There will be more such drives to get education out to everybody, saying the vaccine is now available or is going to be shortly available, so that people can register and make sure that they are all on the list. Obviously, there are a lot of other registers the government will be accessing. I assume that they will be looking at the Aadhaar registry. They'll be looking at all other registries to find data on senior citizens and those who are medically eligible, to try and consolidate that going forward. But it's going to be a humongous exercise. So stay vigilant. I think the data will come out very shortly.
All right. That, of course, hope that answers your question at this point in time. I also want to, go across to Dr. Gangakhetkar here and talk specifically about the necessity for a 2-dose vaccine and how effective is the vaccine after 1 dose, because this did come up in discussions earlier on as well. But how should one, understand that part?
It is very important to understand that what you are hearing today, that the vaccine protects, let's say, 90 to 95% of the people from developing severe COVID disease. This data is coming from 2 dosages of vaccines which have been administered. There is no reason for us to believe that 1 dose will be sufficient, because then you are not adhering to the manufacturer's guidelines as such in terms of the evidence that they have generated. Now, the reason why people tend to worry is, you hear in UK that they have started talking of a longer interval, which could be right up to 12 weeks, 4 weeks to 12 weeks time after the first dose. But they have taken this risk, mainly because the outbreak that is currently ongoing there is so severe that they are worried about even hospital admissions, and therefore they want to ensure, by whichever means that they have, whether they could give 1 dose vaccine and try to reduce the number of people who could be hospitalized. But fortunately for us, we don't have such a situation, and therefore taking 2 dosages is extremely vital for us.
Okay. All right. We've got Dr. Pushpendra Tripathi, who's joining us on the phone line. Thank you so much for calling in. Go ahead. What's your question?
Yeah. My question is could you please let me know what ingredients in the vaccine is it? Why it's so contradictions about these 2 companies, Bharat Biotech and Serum Institute?
Okay.
Why it's so contradictions? If, ingredients remains the same, then there should be no confusion. It occurs, in public. There is a difference. There is something different. So please let me know, I mean, what kind of ingredients are there?
Okay, all right. Who would like to take that question? Dr. Seth, would you like to take that question?
Yeah. So, certainly I can go into the technology, but I don't think this is the forum for that. Maybe a medical conference would be, but if you want to know the Covishield, which is the University of Oxford and the Serum Institute vaccine, basically this is a weakened version of a common cold virus, which we call the adenovirus. And it's a very, it has been modified, and the genetic material has been added, which is used to make the spike glycoprotein, the SARS virus. And so the immunity is now generated against this particular protein, the glycoprotein of the coronavirus. And this is about the Covishield. Now, if you talk of the Covaxin, which is the ICMR, which is a wholly a National Institute of Virology and Bharat Biotech, this is a different kind of it. This is an inactivated virus, and this is basically supposed to be having more kind of a holistic cover kind of thing. So these are the two vaccines. There are others I can go on. The Sputnik vaccine, the Russian vaccine, which Dr. Reddy's lab is trying out. That's another one. The Zydus Cadila is doing a DNA. They've got a phase 3 trial in process. And then you've already heard the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine, which are the RNA vaccine for which you need -70. So from our country perspective, let's focus on only these two vaccines, the Covishield, which is the, yes, is that enough?
Yes, yes, yes. I hope that does answer the question that Dr. Tripathi was looking for. Let me go across to Varun Jain, who's joining us from Delhi. Varun, thanks for calling in. Go ahead. What's your question?
Hi, thanks for having me on. I wanted to understand that, the team of Serum Institute in one of the television interviews said that in the study they found out that a lot of people, even after immunization, got COVID. And it was a mild case of COVID. Isn't the concept of immunity that once you get immunized, you don't get the disease again? Like if I go for a immunity shot as a child, I grow up and I never have the disease. What is the point of having an immunity shot and then still be getting the same disease?
Okay, Dr. Swaminathan, would you like to take that question?
Sure. See, in an ideal world, we'd all want to live there. Unfortunately, we live in a world which is hardly ideal. See, please understand that whatever technology you're using, there's going to be gaps in it. In a study, when we do it, obviously it's done under perfectly ideal conditions, and what you get out of it is called efficacy. And in real world, there are going to be gaps in it, and therefore what you get is effectiveness. And therefore the effectiveness in the real world is also going to be behind the actual efficacy data. That's number one. The second thing is, like my co-panelists also pointed out, it takes time for the immunity to develop. And unless you get both shots and wait a sufficient period of time, you're not going to get the full benefit of the vaccine. And therefore, getting COVID in the interim period is still a reality, and it's not something that any vaccine can overcome. And the third thing is that different vaccines have different efficacy. On average, the Oxford vaccine, the data that was presented was about 70% effective, which basically means in about 30% of the patients, in spite of the vaccine, there is a chance of getting the disease. That is why herd immunity is so important. In that, if we vaccinate or we have natural immunity in so many people, then the chance of, there is protection even for the people who do not develop immunity, because we kind of extinguish the disease. And that's why we need to be very, very aggressive in vaccinating as many people as possible so that we kind of get a control on this. So please understand that also that, childhood vaccination can wane over time, and your immunity need not necessarily be long lasting. For example, if you have a tetanus shot 20 years ago, you're no longer protected against tetanus. You need a booster. So many vaccines require repeat shots. So those are also a way of life. And obviously, it's not as simplistic as we'd like it to be.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Vinod Kumar from Mumbai is on the phone line with us. Vinod, thank you for calling in. Go ahead. What's your question?
Thank you. Good evening to all of you. My question is...
yes, please go ahead.
My question is, has been on chemotherapy recently.
Okay.
For him to, take the vaccine.
All right, Vinod Kumar, I couldn't get your, hear you properly, but from what I understood, you said that you've gone through chemotherapy recently and whether it's a good idea for you to take the vaccine. Dr. Ganga Khedkar, would you like to take that? This is again a question that we've received from multiple people who've been through cancer who are asking the same kind of question, that they've been on chemotherapy, whether they should be taking the vaccine.
See, there is one thing which we have to understand, that chemotherapy can lead to suppression of immune system. If it leads to suppression of immune system, naturally, if you want to vaccinate that individual during that period, you will find that the success of immunization will be lower. And therefore, one of the things which we say is, for those who have malignancy, they should consult their own oncologist and ask him whether their immune status, he considers it to be fairly good. And if you are only going to go by the duration, then in those cases, any duration after ending the last dose of that chemotherapy, any time after 4 weeks period, you will find that your immune system is back to normal. You could even think of 2 weeks as a sufficient time, and then you could take the vaccine. But let that decision be taken in consultation with the oncologist, because it will essentially, he will understand more how long will be the immunosuppression that will come out of this vaccine. This is only to ensure a successful take of this vaccine among those who received chemotherapy.
Okay. All right. BB Chakrabarti is calling us from Kolkata. Thank you so much for calling in. Go ahead. What's your question?
Yeah, my question is that, what I understand, CoWIN app is going to be published by Government of India.
Yes.
But what I hear that there are a lot of already some fake apps are in circulation. So how will you understand which is the correct one?
Okay. All right.
Is there any this thing? Yeah.
Yes. Dr. Chakrabarti, BB Chakrabarti, there is the CoWIN app at this point in time has not been released for the masses right now. The government will announce. So if you are seeing any app that is on your that you are trying to download, don't do that, because there are some fake apps like you pointed out. So it's better to stay away from those apps right now. And once the government announces and it is available for everybody to download, that is when you can actually go ahead and download. But Dr. Parikh, if you would like to add anything?
What I'd like to add to the comprehensive reply that you gave is that, yes, there are bound to be fake apps that come up. But keep in mind one thing, Mr. Chakrabarti, what we have to put on the app is a source of identity. Probably the Aadhaar card, but I'm sure they'll accept other forms of identity as well. So a good principle to follow would be to give a source of identity which is least likely to cause a breach of security in yourself. For example, it could be a driver's license, if they will accept that. So I think a lot depends on the type of identity. But if we do have, as I imagined we will, options of identity, then we should just use the one that it really doesn't matter if the whole world sees it.
Got another question from Osama Aziz from Lucknow, who asks whether these vaccines are effective against the UK strain too. Dr. Seth, if you would like to take that question.
Yeah. See, the UK strain, which is it's a variant, which they picked up in their genetic sequencing. They did it in more than 1.5 lakh patients, and they picked about 1,100 cases. And the UK is having a great second spurt because of this variant, because this variant is supposed to be 70% more infectious, and it can easily spread between people. And obviously, there are also concerns whether the vaccine program will help this particular strain. But let me just put this all to rest. We have had about 22 of these, and the government has taken action. Initially, the flights were suspended for people returning from UK. Now they've reinstated, and these people have been looked into. But given all the vaccines, the 2 vaccines which they have been released, they are going to work with this as well, as of now. If at a later stage they find that this is the predominant strain and you need to make some genetic modifications, the vaccines, the Moderna and the Pfizer company have already come out that they can do another few weeks, they can modify the makeup of the genetic makeup and help this. So I think we need to be mindful. Yes, the vaccine, all these viruses, they mutate. Whether it is the influenza virus or now the corona, they just keep mutating. We have 2-3 mutations per month. So the kind of, the scientists are looking into all that. And we need to be mindful that the vaccines now, whichever they will going to work. So please don't, the only thing I would say is don't relax your guard, because, while the vaccine programs gets into place and it takes another 6 months to a year, till that period of time, you are unsafe if you're not wearing a mask, if you're not hand sanitizing, or you're not maintaining social distancing. So those things will have to be continued. And like my another esteemed co-panelist said, the vaccine will build up the herd immunity. And it's only about that herd immunity is when massive amount, more about 50% or more of our population is immunized, they get antibodies levels, then we can say that, well, the pandemic will be arrested. So it's going to take some time. And vaccine is not a magic bullet that you take it and, everything gets over. It'll take few months, maybe a year.
Yes, absolutely, Dr. Seth. That is, again, a very important point, that it's not a magic wand that is suddenly going to make everything okay overnight. It will take some time. Let me go across to Anup Banerjee, who's joining us on the call on the line from Mumbai. Anup, thanks for calling in. Go ahead. What's your question?
Well, I'm very, very happy that, I have got a chance to go through and have such an esteemed panel. I follow your channel every day almost.
Thank you so much. Please go ahead.
My question is that, me and my wife are 60 plus, and obviously we would like to get vaccinated. And we know about all the vaccines because I'm myself a medical professional, which means I am in a very senior position in a pharmaceutical company.
Okay.
And to add to it, my daughter is a doctor in UK. She's already taken the Pfizer vaccine, she and her husband.
Okay.
So, but we are in India, so we would like to know, first of all, what is the system of this CoWIN, app, and how do both of us get listed, and when is likely to be the time when we'll get vaccinated?
Okay. Dr. Gangakhetkar, would you like to take that question?
As I said earlier, the first group of people who are going to receive it are healthcare workers and frontline workers. Now, the entire government machinery has their names, has the way in which they could be accessed, or they could be tracked as such. So, CoWIN, one of the apps which will be used to register patients who are older, those who have diabetes, and other chronic morbid conditions as such, will be launched at some point in time. Which could be within a week, which could be in next 10 days time. But the reality of life is, when it will be launched, the government itself will announce it. One must remember that every Tuesday at 4 o'clock, the government tends to announce their decisions through the press conference that tends to take place at 4 o'clock. So we should not worry about it. And I'm sure the government will also come with advertisements through the stations as to when the CoWIN app has been launched, so that one can register it.
Okay. All right. Yes, all of us are waiting to find out when that is going to actually happen. But Dr. Seema Sahu is on the phone line with us from Gurugram. Thank you so much, Dr. Sahu, for calling in. Go ahead. What's your question?
Yeah, hi. I'm Dr. Seema Sahu from Gurgaon.
Yes, please go ahead.
My question is, I'm not attached to any private hospital, neither I'm working with government hospital, but I'm a practitioner and I practice in the community.
Okay.
So I just want to know how we are going to be inoculated, because I tried to log into CoWIN app, but it has not been rolled out yet. So I would like to know.
Okay. Dr. Swaminathan, any advice that you can give her?
See, unfortunately, because health is a state subject, each state may have a different way of handling this.
Yes.
What I can tell you is, I'm a healthcare provider. My mother-in-law, who's an older person, is also a healthcare provider, and she's not attached to any medical institution or such. I'm in a large hospital. And she has already been contacted by the corporation to ask about details of when she'd like to get vaccinated and how quickly and things like that. So I can tell you, at least in my state, in Tamil Nadu, things are moving very fast and doctors are being contacted, possibly through the registry in the medical council, to be asked whether they want to be vaccinated, they want to opt out, and whether once it's available, would you like to go for it and things like that. So your own state will be making arrangements according to some protocol which they think is most likely to work for them. I would advise patience. It's going to take another week at least for this to come through, but it will happen because the other option is for you, if you're active in your local IMA, to try and ask your IMA group as to what is happening, because they may have more data on what's happening on the ground level, and especially with regards to instructions from the state.
All right. I hope that answers your question and you're able to get more details based on what Dr. Swaminathan has said. We've also got Mansi Shah joining us from Mumbai. Mansi, thank you for calling in. Go ahead. What's your question?
Hi, good evening. My question is, if I get COVID and say then I get vaccinated after getting COVID, how soon will that vaccine act? Means, do I have to take 2 jabs in order to get cured, or it will happen on its own? I mean, I do not know.
All right. Dr. Parikh, would you like to take that question? From what I understand, I think you need to wait until you've completely recovered from COVID, if you are COVID positive, and then you can get vaccinated.
Wow, Avni. Now you can be a panelist yourself. You're quite a doctor now, having done this program over so long. But Mansi, let me give you the bad news first, and then I'll give you the good news. Okay, bad news, you have to take 2 jabs. Good news, by virtue of having got COVID, there will be a certain degree of immunity in you. And if you wait, as our friend Avni has advised you to wait, Dr. Avni, if you follow her advice, then that's great. But, I've got good news for all of us, Avni, if you give me half a minute.
Yes, please go ahead.
Avni, the great news for your channel and for your program is not only the great quality of questions that we are getting, but the fact is so many of these questions are coming from doctors. Now, when doctors start watching your program for information, then you've got something really useful that's happening. The good news for some people who are worried about the UK strain, which has now come to India, data came out just this morning showing that at least the Pfizer vaccine, this is a University of Texas and Pfizer study, which was released this morning, and it showed at least the Pfizer vaccine is effective on the spike protein mutant in the new strain. It's not been peer reviewed. It's preliminary data. And the good news for me, if you want me to share it with you, is as our program was running, the book that you alluded to, Avni, the vaccine book, which we worked on for the last 4 months, just got released mid-program. It's on Amazon Kindle book. It answers most of the questions that were asked today and many more that we may not be able to cover. So there's great news for all of us.
All right. We'll go across to our next caller, Guru Raj, calling us from Bengaluru. Guru Raj, thank you for calling in. Go ahead. What's your question?
Sir, my question is that one school of thought is that except in Maharashtra and Kerala as of now, the number of cases are few and actually very few. And in many towns and cities, people are going about life as normal. So there may be a belief that there is herd immunity that we already have in this country. In context, why is necessary at all?
Okay. Dr. Gangakhetkar, would you like to take that question? He's essentially asking that if we've already reached such a low level of, the number of cases, haven't we already reached herd immunity? And if so, why do we need a vaccination drive?
There's one thing which we need to understand. Just a decline in infection doesn't necessarily mean you have achieved herd immunity. This could be a temporary thing that you are observing. We do not know even otherwise. Today, we are at least aware, a couple of days back, there is some information that has come that if somebody gets infected, the protection can be right up to 8 months' time as of now. One must remember the data will be keeping on coming all the time. The reason is this is only 12 months old pandemic as of now. Now, so it tells you that for 8 months it may work. So if I assume that herd immunity has come and that's the only reason why the number of cases have dropped down, then one must also remember that even if it is herd immunity that has brought this infection down, you will find that you do not know when you will become susceptible to the infection.
Right.
So the best case is try to take the vaccine when it is offered so that you can extend that duration of protection to a large degree, and with a certain event of vaccination, because vaccines tend to be little more protective, intuitively speaking, compared to natural infections.
Okay, all right. Dr. Ganga Khedkar, thank you for taking that question. We've got another doctor on the phone, Dr. Ishika De, calling us from Kolkata. Dr. De, thank you for calling in. Go ahead. What's your question?
Good evening. I'm Dr. Ishika De. So my question is, what is the effect and the efficiency of the vaccine on someone who is already suffering from COVID?
Okay.
And second is, how are the authorities going to overcome the hesitance to take the vaccine?
All right. Dr. Swaminathan,
since you already mentioned herd immunity.
Yes.
Since everyone believes they're already safe, how are people going to overcome the hesitance?
Okay. Dr. Swaminathan, would you like to take that?
Yeah. So, good questions. First thing, never vaccinate somebody who is not well. So somebody who is acutely ill with a viral infection is not a candidate for vaccination. It's better done once they get better, probably about 2 weeks later or something like that, but never at the time when they are significantly ill. It just doesn't make sense for a lot of reasons. And yes, as Dr. Ganga Khedkar has pointed out, there is very good data to suggest that the natural immunity may not be long-lasting. We are already hearing of a number of cases of reinfection. Now, will these numbers increase over time is the concern. Finally, I would urge all of you to go back 100 years and look at what happened with the flu pandemic of 1918. Round 1 was bad. Round 2 was horrendous. So if we do have a round 2, you better pray you would have got the vaccine before that, because that's not something you would withstand without the vaccine. So more people died in round 2 in the US than they did in round 1. So I would urge you to look at the history. And for that reason alone, I would think getting the vaccine and staying ahead of it makes sense. See, you don't want everybody else to take the vaccine, become immune, and then your immunity to wane, and then you become vulnerable to it. It just doesn't make sense for you. So I think vaccination is the way to go, not when you're sick, but definitely understand that the vaccine is part of a fuller strategy, which includes personal responsibility in protection.
All right. We've got another caller, Venkatesh Gottur, calling us from Thane. Venkatesh, thank you for calling in. Go ahead. What's your question?
Yeah, good evening to the entire panel.
Good evening.
See, I have got two small questions.
Yes.
First thing is that if suppose somebody is below age of 50 and has a comorbidity, how should we get the data uploaded for the child or for whoever is below 50? Is it that the doctor's certificate of comorbidity has to be uploaded on the CoWIN app? And the second question is that suppose my parents are staying abroad right now along with my sister, and they are likely to come back by around April, whether they will miss their turn, in terms of the CoWIN registration. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Dr. Seth, you wanted to come in. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so see, these vaccines are now not tested in children. We're focused on adults out here, and it's a very good question that you've asked. There'll be bridge trials to see their efficacy, safety in children, and then only they'll be certified for children. I think the trials are going to begin. So right now the focus is only on senior citizens, on people with comorbidities, and primarily health workers. But one thing you must remember in children, what I am seeing, and a lot of our colleagues in the Indian Academy of Pediatrics are seeing, that we are getting a lot of children with vaccine preventable diseases. Children are supposed to get vaccines, timely vaccines, to prevent against number of infections, not just COVID. So what has happened is, since the COVID started, there was lockdown. So suddenly everything was locked down. And since then, the parents are not coming forward to get even the children immunized for routine vaccinations. So this is a real big worry, that just because there is COVID doesn't mean the other infections have died out or will not happen. So the children should get timely vaccination to other diseases for which the vaccines have already been approved. That's one. Secondly, children are, because there are no schools and all the early intervention centers, the ICDS centers, the government, the Anganwadis are all closed. still closed. And because of that, children from the poorer families, marginalized communities are not getting their midday meals. That was a source of nutrition. So the malnourishment of children has increased, and anemia, malnutrition, and children are predicted to have morbidities and even mortalities become higher because of these central issues. So children need to be nurtured, very, very closely. The direct effect of COVID on children has been believed to be mild. 70% of the children are actually asymptomatic, and about the entire amongst the COVID cases, only 7 to 8% are in children. So I think that children need nurturance, proper parenting, proper vaccinations to all other diseases. And please wait till the vaccines are licensed for use in children.
Yes.
Then you will come.
Yes,
As for the
absolutely.
senior citizen, I will give it to the other colleagues to answer.
All right. Before we get to that, I just want to go across to a caller who's been waiting. Ashok from Delhi is on the phone line. Ashok, please go ahead. What's your question?
Hi, good evening, everyone. And first of all, congratulations that we have vaccine and soon the vaccination program is going to be rolled out. So I have a question to the panelists.
Yes.
That we are talking about vaccination for the healthy people. Let's say a person gets infected with COVID and he is at ventilator. So is it possible to vaccinate a person who is at ventilator and save the life of that person?
Okay. We just spoke about something similar a short while back, but Dr. Ganga Khetkar, if you would like to answer that question.
No, this kind of a jab that you give when somebody is on a ventilator is not going to be productive. One must remember that the vaccine that we are providing is not a therapeutic vaccine, but it's a preventive vaccine. So if I have already acquired that infection, it's not going to help my body to overcome that particular infection. What is also important for us to understand, though you have not asked this question, anybody who is sick, so sick that he is admitted in the hospital, has a serious disease, as earlier one of the panelists had told, you need to wait for some time, let your immune system recover. That period could range between 2 weeks to almost 3 months time, depending on the condition that the person was suffering, and then take the vaccine, because vaccination essentially requires a stronger immune response from that individual. When the immune system is suppressed, you will not be able to generate that response, and therefore you could wait for taking that particular vaccine for a period that could be between 2 weeks to 12 weeks time.
Yes, absolutely, Dr. Ganga Khetkar. That, of course, important points that you mentioned there. But Dr. Parikh, I want to come to you here. Like you were pointing out earlier, we've been getting a lot of, questions and a lot of very important questions that perhaps need to be addressed, and more awareness needs to be built right now. But if you had to list down, some of the most important things right now that one should be aware about before, going ahead and getting vaccinated for COVID, what would those points be?
Well, I think most of them have been covered, Avni. Most of them have been covered in the program. The vaccines are different, how different they are, what is the sequence, a lot of these questions have been covered.
Yes.
If there's one thing that I'd just like to highlight,
yes,
particularly, even though that was alluded to in the discussion, is that the safety measures need to be fully in place for people who get allergic reactions or even anaphylaxis, which is an extreme form of an allergy. There have to be safeguards in place. People who have these allergies should share this information with the person who is vaccinating. And beyond that, one should always keep in mind that, vaccination is a good thing. It has been estimated that, and it's been around only for 200 years. In 200 years, it has been estimated that vaccinations have saved 1 billion lives till today. So they're very effective, and we're better off taking the vaccination. The rest of it has been covered so well in the program.
All right. Dr. Swaminathan, the other question, I had, since we did have a few questions on the UK COVID strain as well, as somebody who is, dealing with infectious diseases at this point in time, how worried would you be about the UK strain, considering we have, already now more than 80 cases at this point in time that are already in India?
COVID, as has been pointed out, is a virus, and a virus is subject to continuous evolution.
Yes.
And the question is, whichever is fitter is going to reign. When America got hit, they were looking at China to see where it was going to come from. It sneaked through from Europe because it had already mutated in Europe and become more transmissible. So much so that it replaced the original China strain all over the world. And now it looks like the UK strain is going to do that. And that's inevitable. But the point is that going to be a problem for us? Yes, it's more transmissible. But Public Health England has already put out data saying, one, it does not cause more severe disease. Number two, it does not cause more death. And so far as the data is available, there is no evidence to say that people who have already had COVID and are partially immune to it are more vulnerable to the new strain. That is, they get repeat infections from the new strain. So to me, it's more of a boogeyman than an actual problem. And UK blew the whistle after knowing that they had this problem since early September. And they blew it at a time which was pretty convenient for a lot of reasons. So I'm not going to go into the politics of it. All I will say is let's not make too much of the UK strain. To me, it's a natural order of things. And the data seems to suggest that the vaccine will be effective and there is no reason for us to panic. Having said that, this virus can change its stripes. The South African variant for me is a little more concerning. There are other variants also which are a little concerning. And obviously, we need to continuously monitor the system and look for what we call vaccine escape mutants. And those are possible. So unless we keep an eye on them and adapt to it accordingly, we could be in trouble. But so far, at least, we seem to have a winning strategy. And the more we stick to that strategy, the more likely we are to win.
All right. We're coming to the end of this show at this point in time. But Dr. Gangakhetkar, I want to come to you for the final word. You've seen the kind of questions that we've received. Obviously, this sort of shows how much people are concerned, how confused they are at this point in time. What would you sort of like to end the show by telling people about the entire vaccination drive that we're about to embark on?
Yeah, I wish they were as much concerned before 1 crore odd cases occurred. No? They would not have had occurred. But I think nothing is lost. You could begin now. Please follow COVID appropriate behavior. Add a new weapon in your armamentarium. We will win. But then we also need to remember that you have to take care of your own health, your family's health. It's not only government's responsibility, but it is also your responsibility as well. You need to take complementary actions which will ensure that the government will come out in controlling this particular infection strongly. Let's work together would be the only thing that I would tell.
All right. I think on that note, it's appropriate to thank all our panelists at this point in time. Thank you so much for joining us and answering all of those questions very patiently. And we have a lot more questions, in fact, and I'm so sorry to our viewers whose questions we couldn't get to. But I do assure you, this is not a one-off. We will keep doing this as much as possible and try and answer all of your questions as well as far as the COVID vaccine is concerned. But on that note, it's time to wrap up this edition of the Urban Debate. Thank you so much for joining us.